Welcome to Wisdom Scribe Podcast, where we give you wisdom for everyday life on the go in areas of relationship, finance, education, conduct, and just life in general. So, guys, listen. Here, we're going to learn how to be spies. Not like the ones that you see in the movies, but I mean people that are strategic, purposeful, and intentional. And we're going to learn how to do this through the greatest books ever written in history. That's right, the Bible. So we're going to start off with the book of Proverbs, and we're going to take certain verses, and then we're going to explore how those verses apply to our everyday life. So the first thing we're going to do is start off with knowing why this book of Proverbs is important. Verse 2 states, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity. So that means in our everyday life, in our everyday dealings, wisdom will teach us how to operate in a righteous manner, to do things that's always just and fair, not just to ourselves, but to everyone else that's affected. It says, started at verse 4, to give prudence to the simple. That means good judgment. Knowledge and discretion to the youth. So all you young ones out there, listen up. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. Who doesn't want guidance through life? Especially guidance to make the right decisions, to make the right moves, to say the right things. All right? to understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. So listen to this. Verse 7 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Now, what is the fear of the Lord? Just to keep it very simple, it is understanding that God is God, and everything that He says, it is right or righteous, it is just, and it is fair. But also to know that it is the ultimate knowledge or the ultimate wisdom being given when it comes from Him. So if God says something, then if you're looking for the most effective or greatest wisdom you could ever have, you would understand that it would come from Him because He's the greatest. He created everything, right? So it only makes sense that if He is God, if He is who He says He is, then of course He would have the greatest knowledge, the greatest wisdom, the greatest understanding. And if He expresses it to us, then it would behove us. Is that the word? Behove? Behove? I tell you, once you're out of college for a while, it's almost like you begin to forget things. I can tell you right now, if my kids come to me for help for math, I'm like, go to your mother. I've forgotten a lot of things, guys. I'm telling you. Anyway, but it would only make sense to follow His instructions, right? So here's the first thing that it says, starting at verse 8. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching. So, of course, this would apply to the daughters as well. For they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. Now, I want to be very clear. This is speaking in general. If you've had a unrighteous upbringing, meaning you've had unrighteous instructions from your mom or your father, of course, God is not going to say, oh yeah, listen to them, for they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck, right? But this is specifically talking to parents who have followed the instructions of the Lord, all right? So if they're telling you things that are righteous, that are just, and that are equitable, all right, or fair, then yes, you want to listen to these parents' instructions and forsake not their teachings. Okay? Then it says, starting at verse 10, my son or daughters, if sinners entice you, do not consent. I don't know about you, but growing up, we always had that one friend that always wanted to drag you into trouble. Hey, Mark, let's try this. Hey, you ever had drugs before? Let's try this. Let's drink this. Let's taste this. Ooh, let's get into some trouble. Let's have some fun. Let's go booze cruising. You always have a friend or maybe friends that is always trying to entice you to do the wrong thing. And many of us have landed ourselves in trouble because we have consented to that friend. We have listened to the advice of that friend. And the funny thing is, they try to convince you by saying things like, don't be such a stiff, or don't be so boring, or don't be this. It's not cool to be that. And just to try to relate or fit in, we submit to the peer pressure. But the words of wisdom is saying, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive, the whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. This sounds like a rehearsal for some thieves and robbers. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse, right? So this is talking about, negotiating once you have stolen something from someone, negotiating how much each person is going to get, right? My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. I don't know about you, but the scene in Boys in the Hood when Cuba Gooding got out the car, that just came to me. You saw how they convinced him to get the gun, get in the car, and to go seek revenge for his brother's death, right? They were going to go and hunt down his brother's shooter. But you saw, as he's driving along, and you can tell that he's thinking, he tells him to stop the car and he gets out, which was the best decision he made for his life at the time. Then it says, their feet run to evil and they make haste to shed blood. For in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird. But these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. In other words, it is only those who live an unjust life is who tends to live in fear or always watching their back and not being able to trust anyone. Why? Because they know they've done wrong. It's just like as we're driving to work or wherever you're going right now, maybe someplace you're not supposed to be going. But if you were speeding, we tend to what? Look out in the corners, around the overpasses, and where we think a cop may be hiding. Why do we do that? Because we know we're breaking the law. If you're a person that's driving the speed limit, you do not worry about those things. You don't look for an officer to be pulled over. You don't anticipate getting a ticket because you're not doing anything wrong, right? I'm not saying you can't get pulled over, but that's not in the forefront of your mind. You're not thinking about that. However, if you are speeding and breaking the law, then you begin to think about the consequences, right? Well, that's what these verses are saying. That that these men, thieves and robbers, they always have what? A lookout guy. Why? Because they're looking out for the law to come and punish them. Let's move on. So this part is titled The Call of Wisdom. Wisdom cries aloud in the street, In the markets, she raises her voice. At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks. So I don't know if you guys caught it, but I got the title for this podcast from verse 20. Wisdom cries aloud in the street. But the point is that wisdom is always going out. It's always speaking, right? God is always speaking. But are we listening? Are we literally taking these instructions that he has left us and walking in them? Because I can tell you right now, many of us are in the positions we're in because we have failed to listen and carry out the instructions that God has given us. I mean, if you take a look at just these books in general, the books of wisdom contained in the Bible, it talks about how to manage your resources, manage your finances, how to make certain decisions in life. I mean, how to live a good life, pretty much. But how many of us have actually taken the time to seek out this wisdom? And then once we have found it, to actually follow it, to do it, to follow its instructions. So that's what we're here to do. So continue to tune in. All right. Continue to follow. Get these nuggets for everyday living on the go. Let's continue. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? So my question to you is, how long are you going to stay in the position that you're in? I've met so many people who tell me that, Mark, I don't like my job. Mark, I'm not being paid enough. So then whenever I would say, okay, well, if you're not being paid enough, or if you don't like your job, why not apply for something you do like, right? So then a week will go by and I'll say, hey, so did you apply for anything? Did you, look at anything? Yeah, I didn't have time. I was busy this week. And the funny thing is, every time we say that and make that as an excuse, I can bet 100% that we took time to watch either something on Netflix, we spent hours on Facebook, on YouTube, or something. So when we say I didn't have time, I know that that is not true. So then I'll try to, provoke the person into looking and applying for jobs out there. Because there are plenty, but we're just not looking. So then the person will say, okay, I'm going to look, Mark. So then a week or two will go by. I say, hey, did you apply for anything? Yes, I applied, but nobody called me back. And watch this. Me, being who I am, I'll dig in. When you say applied, how many did you apply to? Because a lot of times they'll say, I applied to a lot and nobody called me back. And then this is what a lot means. I applied to 3. 3 is a lot. And nobody called me back. Did you call them? Did you call them? Because here's how it works, guys. I didn't tell you, but my major was HR and I was in recruiting for quite a while. So we would get a lot of applications or resumes or whatever. A recruiter is not going to go through every single application or resume. They're going to go through, starting from the top, work their way down, and as they find potential candidates, they're going to set up an interview those folks until they find who they are looking for. So if 99 people applied and I find the 2 persons I'm looking for from 1 to 10, guess what? The rest is going in the garbage. That's just the way it works. I'm not going to look through 99 applications. No recruiter does, unless it takes them that long to find who they're looking for. All right. But when you call, if you were number 80 and you called for a status update, then I am forced to actually go through or, type in your name in the computer, find you and look you over then and there to give you an update. So in other words, you kind of skip the line. That's why it's important to call. All right. And if you are not being paid enough, how long will you remain simple? Meaning, how long will you stay there? Why? It's almost like we always feel trapped once we've been on a job for years. Like we cannot imagine ourselves doing anything different. Yet we want to do something different. So I am speaking to you right now. If you claim that you're not being paid enough, then do something about it. Start applying to different jobs or ask for a pay raise. What are they going to tell you? No? You've already received a no by not asking. But seriously, do something. Wisdom calls us to act, to be strategic, to be purposeful, to be intentional. You got to be intentional in seeking a better paying job, one that's going to be more convenient for you, for your family, for your lifestyle, right? And go after it. Apply and call. I am telling you, it is people that are strategic, purposeful, and intentional is the ones that we a lot of times envy in life because they have the guts to do what we won't do. To simply sit down, search for jobs online, apply, and make a phone call. So I want to encourage you on this morning to do, to go and do. All right? Or else nothing is going to change and you're going to remain simple. You're just going to live a simple life. And some people say nothing wrong with living a simple life. No. I'm not speaking of a life that is simple because you're content. I'm not speaking about that because no one should be content with living paycheck to paycheck, where if you miss a check, you're in trouble, especially if you have a family to support. No one should be comfortable with that. That doesn't speak to wisdom, as a matter of fact. And that's what I always tell people. A lot of times we'll take this stance or this mind framing, oh, I'm content. When we take it out of context, right? We take it out of context, I'm content. Where if anything happens, now you're homeless. Now you're struggling. Now you're depressed. And now you're cursing God. Yeah. That's not a simple life, brethren. A simple life is one where you actually can afford things comfortably. Where if you do lose your job, guess what? Because wisdom states that we're supposed to be like the ant and save up for bad times. That's what wisdom says, which we're going to get to later on. But if we were following the instructions, then if you lose your job, guess what? You're fine. Because you have followed the instructions of wisdom. That's what we would classify as a simple life. But when he speaks about being simple here, he's speaking about being like everybody else, living paycheck to paycheck, have a whole bunch of debt and credit cards and this note and that note. Where we just continue to work and work and work and give our money away to lenders. Where we continue to struggle and we continue to wish our lives were better. We continue to dream without doing anything about it. We continue to be primarily consumers. That's what it's speaking about here. So it says, how long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long, my friends, will we continue just to dream and continue to go to work depressed before you even get there, stressed before you even get there, and have to deal with the same mess, the same bad environment? But Mark, it's the same everywhere. No, it's not. That is a lie. No, it is not. Yes, there will be some things that are similar, but it's not the exact same. Because guess what? There are people out there that have positions that love what they do, and they love the people they work with, and they love their boss. So it wouldn't be the same in another environment where they hate their coworkers and hate their boss. That's not the same, brethren. So we can't keep saying everywhere is the same. It's not. We're just saying that to ourselves to justify remaining being simple. Listen to what it says in verse 23. If you turn at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit to you. I will make my words known to you. So wisdom is saying, hey, if you turn to my correction, I will pour out my spirit upon you. I will make my words known, understandable to you. Because I have called and you refuse to listen, have stretched out my hand and no one has heeded, because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof or correction, I also will laugh at your calamity or your downfall. You see that? So the only reason why many of us are in the positions we are is because we have not heeded to wisdom. But if you are here, then you are heeding. You are starting to heed. And that's where we want to be. But if we continue to ignore wisdom, listen to what 29 says. Because they have hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my corrections, therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way, and have their fill of their own devices. For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacency of fools destroy them. But whoever listens, watch this, whoever listens to me will dwell secure and will be at ease without dread of disaster. Who does not want to dwell secure? Who does not want to be at ease, where you're not anxious for anything? Only wisdom can take us there. So be encouraged and continue to tune in, because on tomorrow I'm going to have another episode for you as we give you wisdom for everyday life on the go. Thank you for tuning in for Wisdom's Cry here with Mark D. Parchment. Take care.